usually your larger objects are going to be closer to the bottom of your paper, and your smaller objects go up towards the top. So I'm going to start with a pencil first, so that if I make a mistake, I can erase. But since it's going to be hard for you to see pencil in this video, I'm just going to jump ahead and use a Sharpie, but you will be using a pencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a middle ground, background, and foreground. And we're going to do that by drawing a line. So I'm going to come near the bottom, a couple inches up, and think about Dr. Seuss. I mean, some of his hills were really crazy, so it's okay to get a little crazy with it. That's my foreground. That's the area that's closest. Now I'm going to do my middle ground line. So ultimately we'll do 2 lines. So I have my foreground, middle ground, and background. I'm now going to draw some trees in my foreground, and those are going to be really big trees. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with the bottom of the truffula trees, and they usually just start out with a line. If they're a little crooked, that's fine. Now while you're doing this, if you want to erase any of the lines that go through it, you can, but I'm going to have to try to work around that since I can't use an eraser. Typically, truffula trees, they have these little patterns. If you want to change the pattern of yours, you can. And then how I do the top of the truffula tree, I am going to use a pencil with on mine so you can see. What I typically do is I start with a circle, and then around that circle, I do like a zigzag. I go around it with a zigzag to create that shape. It almost looks like the sun. And then I'll go in and I erase the little outside edge of that circle. So that's how you get the shape of the top of the truffula trees. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and now I'm gonna trace that as well. And you'll notice this tree almost goes to the top of the paper because that's how tall and big it is. Okay, if you make it too small, it's going to be hard to see perspective in your work. Now maybe I'll do one up towards the bottom, but it's going to be just the top of it, but we'll make it really big because it's closer to us. Okay, maybe I'll do the bottom. Now that I have that done, I'm going to do my middle ground trees, okay? And these ones, they may go up a little bit, but they start from the middle ground, not from down here. So the key thing is to really make that starting circle a little smaller. Do your area around it. And then the length is not going to be as long either because it's coming from the middle ground. So I'm going to now go in and trace that. Okay, so I have a middle ground tree, and notice how that is the top of that is a lot smaller than these ones, okay? And it also started from that middle line. Now I'm gonna do one off of that last line with my background, and guess what needs to happen? It needs to get even smaller. All right, there we go. As you can tell, I've now created some space. So now what we're gonna do is a little road. It can come anywhere from your paper. It's gonna start right at the top horizon line, and it's gonna curve down to the bottom of the paper. And then we're gonna do another line. This is always hard for friends. The key thing is as you're gonna start close to that last line, but as you're coming farther away from it, you wanna spread out and be farther away from that first line. So watch what I do. I start out close, and then I start to angle outwards. And now I've created space with my road. Now, if you had an eraser, you can erase that. Now what I'm gonna do is any bushes you wanna add, you can add. So maybe I'll do a big bush here, you know, but then as I get up the page, what needs to happen? Great, they need to get smaller. So now I'm gonna do just a smaller one here and a very small one here. If you wanna do any clouds in the sky or birds, you can. You really don't want to do too much. Now the sky this is the horizon line, the last line you did. The sky's from there to the top. We really don't want to do too much detail because we are going to go in and add some buildings and things later. So keep that in mind. So now that I have my drawing traced, I'm going to go in and start to color. We are just going to color the trees and the bushes. And then later on, we'll go in with some watercolor around that. So when you're using your crayons, you need to push hard to create a resist. Okay, remember the crayon rules. You go around the shape first. All right, and then you fill it in. We're gonna push hard because you wanna create a resist. So you're gonna color your trees, bushes, and if you would like to color your road as well, you can, but let's avoid the ground for now. Now that we have the crayon done, as you can tell, I have the trees. I turned my pathway into water. I just colored it blue and added some lines. I wanted that really to be more of a river, but you could do a road. It's up to you. And my bush is done. I'm now going to paint the mountains and the sky. And what you're going to do for each section, your foreground, middle ground, and background, is you're going to paint it with a different set of watercolors, different color. So down here, I want to choose opposites. I probably wouldn't want to use any colors that I have a lot of. So maybe I want to avoid yellow. I'll do, let's see, I might do some green. So I'm going to get green on my brush. And with watercolor, remember, the longer you roll around in that paint, the darker it's going to appear when you're using it. I'm going to go and outline the top of my line first. Notice how I'm keeping my bristles together to look like ballerina toes. And I'm going to outline the objects in my drawing. Since we did crayon, if you accidentally slip, you'll notice it doesn't really want to stay on there, but I do try to practice my, painting around objects so I get better at it. So now that I have that area painted, I outlined it first. I'm going to go in with nice, gentle brush strokes and paint in the rest of it. Once I have that section done, I'm going to go over, same color on this side, and I'm going to paint around the best I can. Thankfully, I used crayons, so again, if it gets into the crayon a little bit, that's fine. All right, I'm going to get a new color, so I'm going to remember to clean my brush with water. Up here, same thing. It's just looking like maybe I shouldn't do any yellow. I'm going to dip some orange. I'm going to first outline the top of that line here. And I'm going to be very careful when I'm going around the green because I do remember that orange and green do not mix well together. So I'm just going to kind of go right above that line. Okay, and now I'm going to fill the area in after I've outlined around the trees. Once I have the middle ground done, I'll do the background. Again, outline everything, choose a different color, and then I'm going to set this. I have my landscape painted now, and by separating in different colors for each section in my foreground, middle ground, background, I'm able to create space as well. I'm going to set this to the side because I'm now going to make some buildings that I'm going to add onto this. So what you're going to do is you are going to get 3 pieces of construction paper. They're all different sizes. A big one, medium, and small. Why are we getting 3 different size pieces of paper? What do you think? Great, because I want to create space again, just like I did with the trees. So what I'm going to do is I am going to let you create your buildings how you want. Okay, one of the things about Dr. Seuss is he did not make realistic buildings. They would not be buildings you would see in real life. They don't even make sense sometimes. So I want you to focus on shape and creating interesting forms. I'll give you this handout as inspiration. You do not need to copy what you see here, but you are going to go in with a pencil first, and you are going to draw a 3 different size buildings. Try to fill up the whole paper, fill up the whole space, so that way you can get different sizes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start, I think I might want to do one that kind of looks similar to this one. It's very rounded at the top. So I'm going to start deciding if I want it the tall or wide way. I think I'm going to do the tall way. I'm going to do the bottom part of the house, which is kind of looks like a line. If I'm looking at that, it looks like it curves, goes up, curves out a little bit. Maybe I'll add an extra bump at the top. Why not, right? Okay. And then comes maybe down. So you can change things that you want on your drawing. I don't know, I kind of like this front here, so maybe my door is going to be more like this. It'll come up like that. If it's wobbly or crooked, perfect. That's so Dr. Seuss and his style, so it works. All right, I'm going to do another oval here. Let's see. Windows, as you can tell, he did many different shapes for windows. So I'm going to go in. Maybe this one will be kind of like a half curve. Up here, I'll do a couple of little windows, and then it looks, I feel like I might need, I don't know, another little door here. Maybe another window here. Okay, so once you have that drawn out, you're then gonna add some sides to your shape. So if you're looking at these, you can tell that they drew another edge on their shape. So I'm gonna pick a side to draw from. So maybe I'll choose the left-hand side of this building. I'm just gonna kind of taper out like this and follow along the edge of the shape and come down. And what happens is I've created kind of like a shadow. I'm gonna do the same thing in my windows. You're gonna come from the corner, draw a line, and then you're gonna draw a horizontal line. Same thing here, corner. This one's curved, so I'm just gonna kind of curve it around. And what this is gonna create is just some more depth in your work. If you wanna do any cool designs or details around your windows, you can. Okay, so think about what you want to do, stairs, things like that, and you're going to draw 3 different buildings. So as you can tell, I went in, I got my 3 buildings. They're all 3 different sizes, and I made sure that happened by trying to fill up that square space the best I can. Now, what you're going to do after you've drawn out your building and you've traced it with a Sharpie, you're going to pick one color for each building to accentuate or have some areas pop out. You can color some of the edges, windows, doors, but you're only going to do one color so that it can kind of follow the theme style of the artist Dr. Seuss. So now that we have these, we're going to take them, cut them out so we can glue them onto our landscapes we painted. So you're going to take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut along the edge of each one of your buildings until they're all cut out. Now I have my small, medium, and large houses done. What I like to do is first place them on my paper because I don't want to block a lot. Need to figure out, you know, where I would like these to go. You might have to cover up some things and that's fine. So I know that the biggest one has to go at the bottom. And then the medium one, you know, I wouldn't want to put it right over here. It could go there. Let's see what it looks like right there. So the medium one has to touch the middle line, the bottom of it. Or kind of, it can go a little bit above it as long as it's staying within the middle ground. Okay, same thing with this. As long as the bottom of it stays within the foreground area, that first color. So I got this one in the foreground, this one in the middle ground, and then this one has to be right on that background horizon line because you don't want it to look like it's floating in the air. If you have to go a little bit down into that middle ground, you can, as long as the bottom of this one is closer to you, the viewer, at the bottom of the paper. So that's looking good, friends. I'm going to keep it like that, and I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. I have that all glued down. I actually did go in, friends, and I used my scraps to make some bushes that went next to or in front of my house because I did end up having to cover up a lot of the other ones when I was doing gluing the buildings down. So it is okay to go back in and collage some things with that colored paper if you have any left. All right, friends, well, here we go. We have some nice space going on. The bigger buildings are the closest to us at the bottom of the paper, and then as they go up near that horizon line or the background, things appear smaller.